is Brian Foster, and welcome to our live stream on July 27th, 2021. And today we are talking about a wonder in the spirit land. This is part 3, the Kingdom of Hell. This is by the spirit Franchezzo, and I've gone through quite a few Tuesdays on this, and he has risen from being down in the lower zone where he is now actually helping people, but he was actually one of the more lower level, ignorant, we should say, spirits, with the help of his love of his life, who's still alive, but she's been talking to mediums, she's been sending him prayers. He has risen, he has been part of a team now to help other people. Now we are in the part of the book where he is helping other people. Now, I am interpreting this through Spiritism, which is, let me show this on the stream. There we go. Which was codified by Allan Kardec in 1850s. If you're interested in it, go to my blog. There are links below, and you can download the Spirits book, the audio of the Spirits book, or you can go to YouTube. You can listen to the Spirits book on the Spirits book playlist, and you can also download my book, Spiritism 101, the Third Revelation. It's in PDF. It's free. It's also in French. It's been translated by someone wonderful in French. So you have, there's a lot of different options to show what you need. So here it is. Spiritism 101, the Third Revelation at nwspiritism.com. Now, let's get right to where we are on the chapter. Let's put this here. Oh, let me get rid of this on screen. Hide. I'll try to keep this down so you can read along. I know people like reading along. Okay. This is chapter 23, The Palace of My Ancestors, Fault Brothers Baffled. On the outskirts of the town, we came to a magnificent palace, almost strangely familiar and yet unfamiliar to my eyes. In wandering through the city, I was so reminded of its earthly double that I felt as one who sees some familiar beloved spot in a nightmare vision, which has distorted and rendered hideous all that he deemed so fair. I had oftentimes in my youth gazed up at this beautiful palace and taken pride to myself that I came of the race who had once owned it in all its broad lands, and now, here, to behold it thus, with all its beauties tarnished, its marbles stained and mildewed, its terraces and statues broken and defaced, its fair front marred with the black cobwebs of past crimes and wrong done within its walls, and its lovely gardens a dreary blackened waste as through the breath of a pestilence it swept over it, sent through me a thrill of sorrow and dismay, and it was with a saddened heart that I followed my friend into the interior. So he's in a city down in the dark abyss, which is, he calls hell. Now, according to Spiritism, there is no such thing as eternal punishment. There's only that people, in fact, actually, Franchezzo is there helping people who've decided to start changing their character and their attitude, helps them out of what he calls hell. So the people there may think it's eternal punishment. That's part of kind of the trial they have to go through. And what they do is they experience being with people like them. And of course, when he says things are ugly and blackened, the true character of the people and of the place as interpreted by the people come out. So there's nothing beautiful really in the lower zone or the dark abyss, which he calls hell. And the lower zone is starts from the surface of the earth to the lowest level of heaven, and the dark abyss, or he calls hell, starts from the surface of the earth down below. Okay, so let me carry on here. Up its great broad stairways we passed, and through the handsome doors was opened of themselves to admit us. Around us were many dark spirits flirting to and fro. Each and all seemed to expect and welcome us as guests whose coming was awaited. At the last door, faithful friend once again left me, saying he would rejoin me in another place. Now, the faithful friend is a spirit a bit more mature than he is, and he is probably more tied into the management of this whole organization that's trying to help other people. So the faithful friend comes and rescues us sometimes, gives them ideas, etc. I'll carry on. A great blaze of ruddy light greeted my eyes as this last door opened, and seemed as though someone opened the door of a furnace, so hot and stifling was the atmosphere. At first I almost deemed the place on fire. Then by degrees the blaze of light died down to a dull red glow, and a wave of steel gray mist swept through the city hall instead, while a wind as of ice froze the blood at my heart and seemed to impart its icy chill. These strange waves of heat and cold were caused by the intense fire of passion and the cold, selfish chill of the dual nature of the man who reigned here as prince. See, so thought is action in the spirit world, and thought is action even in the lower zones in the dark abyss. And this person would just, he reigned here as prince, so he had a dominant personality. He ruled over those people around him. And that's the force of will. And as they say in many passages I read, where someone who's like this prince who is, cruel and mean, yet very dominant, right? He knows what he wanted to. Once he turns his mind to the good and stops being selfish and prideful and, likes to hurt people and really completely switches over his whole outlook, he will rise quickly in the spirit world. And this is something we have to remember. Jesus loves us. Christ loves us. All the spirits around him and work for him loves us. But we'll be put in these places until we, by our own free will, change our mind, our attitude, and our character. And then we'll be allowed to ascend as fast as we want. And that's why we're here on earth, is to learn the lessons that are thrown at us. There's going to be different stimuli. That's all planned. And we learn from that. And when we learn from that and we leave this physical body, we actually rise in the spirit world and we get better and better. And someday we'll be a perfect spirit. We don't have to incarnate ever again, unless we volunteer. I'll carry on. To the most fierce and insatiable passions, he united in an intense selfishness and an intellect of the highest order. As these swayed him in turn in his earthly life, causing strange alterations of fiery passion and cool calculation in his conduct, so did these, as waves thrown off by a spirit, cause in his spiritual mansion these extraordinary variations of intense heat and extreme cold that knew no medium of temperature between. As he had dominated all men on earth who came within range of his power, so did he dominate the spiritual beings around him now, and rule as absolutely over them as he ruled over his earthly subjects. At the top of this great hall, I beheld him seated in his chair of state, which had around it all but imperial insignia. His walls were hung with the semblance of ancient tapestry, but how more than merely faded and ragged it looked. It was as though the thoughts and the life and the magnetism of the man had become woven in those ghostly hangings and corrupted them with his own corruptions. Instead of pictures of the chase, of floating nymph and crowned sea gods, there was constantly shifting panorama of this man's past life in all its hideousness and nakedness, thrown like pictures from a magic lantern upon the stately molding ragged arras drapery behind and around him. So let's talk about this. So this tapestry is alive. It's showing pictures. The tapestry is picking up images from his mind and showing them. Now, you'll see this in heaven too. In heaven, a sculptor will create the sculpture of farmland, of earth, of a pastoral earth, and you'll see cows. You'll see things actually move. And they'll be on a pre-programmed thing. They won't be picking up other thoughts, but they'll be on a pre-programmed loop, kind of like rides at Disneyland, right? Where you go through, we'll do the same thing. And then also in people, as at different places, as they walk around, their tunics, if that's what they want to wear, will change color as they go through different buildings or different woods. Everything interacts. Everything is connected in the spirit world. This is something that is so important to know. Everything is connected. And you're not just this physical person that's been taken out and put into the spirit world. What you are is you've lost your physical body, your covering. Now you have your spirit and your paraspirit. And you are part of a huge logical entity. And you can look at it as in geometric terms, where the earth, and there's different levels of heaven around the earth, and then that is controlled by Jesus. And then there's other planets with other levels around them, and then there's levels of heaven around everything. And then below the levels of heaven is the lower zone in the dark abyss. And dark abyss is what Franchezzo calls hell. And you go through these environments created by the thoughts of people, that the majority of people that are there are spirits who have created these environments before, higher spirits, and these environments cannot be destroyed because they're not as dominant as the spirits who created them. And just to let you know, but your mind does affect things. Like this person affected the tapestries and the kind of the environment in there. But did he affect everything? Probably no, but he picked up other ones. And in heaven, you pick up the thoughts, because there's what is called the law of affinity, where like tends to go with like. That's the way God created this whole system. And so these people all, go off of each other. If someone had a completely original thought, if they were dominant, they could probably move the group. If not, it would be gone. Now you could also look at it as a completely logical structure. And this is how they say there's no such thing as distance. There's presence or absence. You decide, and you're given a set of parameters of what environment you are in. And depending on the level of maturity, of spiritual maturity and knowledge, and what level of heaven, you can go to lower levels, of meaning that you can move by thought, or you just think. You change your environment. I'm in heaven level 2 1 minute, and the next minute I am in the middle of Milan, Italy. Did I go anywhere? Did I travel millions of miles? No, I switched my environment, the parameters which I was allowed to, and I had the level to switch. You can think of it both ways. Or you can think of it, you traveled far. But, if you want to put this together, you can think of it as a video game. And you have an avatar. And the avatar moves from the city, over the ocean, through the forest, to a castle. Now, to the avatar, he thought he moved. But what happened in the background is the software changed the scenery behind the avatar, and then you told the avatar what to do. So think these thoughts and see what you think. I recommend you read my book, The Spirit Realm. Spiritism has revealed the reality of our existence. And this will give you a better idea. And once you get this idea and understand why we're here, this will help you understand what's happening to you. Why all these strange things happen to you. So it should help. Okay. Instead of pictures of Chase, I said that one. Line up right behind him. The great windows through which the light of day never shone, because he's in a dark abyss, were hung with the semblance of what had on earth been handsome velvet curtains, but which now appeared as some funeral palls shrouding the skeleton shapes that lurked like avenging spectres within them. Spectral forms of those victims who the man had sacrificed to his lust and ambition. Great drinking cups of silver that seemed of a white heat when you touched them, and huge costly vases adorned the tables. And here as elsewhere, there was the same hideous phantom of a feast, the same bitter mockery of earthly pleasures. Now, this is what he says, is that the food isn't good. The food is horrible, and you don't really need to eat. But they do that because that's what they're used to. At the entrance, the lord of this horrid place rose from his throne to greet me with welcoming words. And I recognized with a thrill of horror that he was the spiritual counterpart of that ancestor of my family from whom we had all been so proud to think we were descended, and whose portraits I'd often been told I much resembled. The same man, the same haughty, handsome features, without doubt, but all, how subtle, how awful was the change upon them. The brand of shame and dishonor stamped on every line, the corruption throwing through the mask which he still strove to cover it. Here in hell, all men are seen as they are, and no power can avail to hide one atom of their vileness. And this man was vile indeed. So, when you're in the lower zone or the dark abyss, your outside reflects your inside. Same thing in the spirit world. Your outside reflects your inside, your beauty. That's why people see so many beautiful angels, and these people are wonderful. And if people have had dreams or visions or near-death experiences, let's say of your grandmother, well, your grandmother's been there for a while. She's gone back, instead of being 80, she's, now she's maybe 30 or 20, depending on how she wants to look. But then even then her beauty comes through. And then the opposite part, here this guy, everything he did wrong came through. Even in an age of sensuality, he had been distinguished for his sins. And in an age when men thought little of cruelty, he had shown as one without pity or remorse. I saw it now mirrored in all those pictures around him, and I felt overwhelmed to think that there could have been points of resemblance of any sort between us. I shuddered at the false empty pride of those who had gloried in saying that they were allied to such a man, simply because he in his day had wielded almost regal power. And this man spoke to me as one whom he had an interest, since I was of his race. He told me he welcomed me here, and that I should dwell with him. By the mysterious link that earthly relationship gave, he attached himself to my earth life, and he had from time to time been able to influence. When I had felt most of ambition and a proud desire to rise and be again one with the great ones of earth, as had been my ancestors in the past, then he had been drawn to me and had fed and fostered my pride and my haughty spirit that was in a sense akin to his own. Now, this is extremely interesting. This shows you how we are influenced. So, spirits don't say something that's completely alien to you. If there's a good person along the street, they don't say to that good person, "Oh, go find an axe and kill someone." No, they don't do that, because that person would reject that idea immediately, because that person filters everything through their conscience. But if you are in a mood and you want something really bad, and you want it bad enough to hurt other people, well, spirits like this guy will give you inspiration how to do that. This is why a lot of people make the false sense of thinking that they're the Satanists, because spirits will actually help them. They'll give them, "Oh yeah, you can go do this, and I'll influence this person to help you do that." That actually occurs. But what you're doing is you're giving up your kindness and your charity, your selflessness, and you're just reinforcing your primitive emotions, pride, selflessness, revenge, lust, and you will not mature at all in this life. In fact, you'll have more wrongs to pay for in your next life. And when you go back into this lower zone, if you think you're going to be important, well, you'll be maybe like this great Lord. You'll just be over a bunch of losers, and the atmosphere will be horrible. It's not worth it. Remember, your physical life is so short. It's absolutely nothing in relation to the immortal spirit life that you live. Okay. And he it was, he told me, who had prompted those acts of my life, of which I felt now the most ashamed. Acts I would have given all my life to undo after I'd done them. And it was he said, who had from time to time, sought to raise me in the world till I should be able to grasp power of some kind and reign a king in the field of intellect, if I could not reign king of a country as he had done. Through me, he had hoped himself again to wield power over men, which should be some compensation for his banishment to this place of darkness and decay. Faugh, he cried. This is a charnel house of motoring bones and dead skeletons. But now you are come to join me. We shall see if we cannot combine, do something to make ourselves feared, if not obeyed, by the dwellers of the earth. I've had many disappointments in you, O son of our noble race, and I feared you would escape me at last. I have tried for years to draw you down, but were ever baffled by some unseen power. That was his own wanting to be better, and the woman he loved in the physical world, or is loving in the physical world. Once and again, when I deemed I had beyond doubt made all things sure, you would shake me off and break away from all control, till I had well nigh abandoned the struggle. But I do not yield readily to anyone. And when I could not be with you myself, I sent some of my henchmen to do you service. Oh, service, yes, service. And so here you are at last, and by my faith you shall not again leave me. Behold how fair are the pleasures I have prepared for you. So, you know the old cartoons, I don't, is where you've got an angel on one side and a devil on the other, all giving you ideas, good ideas and bad ideas. There's reality to this. And that's why we need to learn in this physical life to filter everything through our conscience. And if we filter everything through our conscience and we reject anything that says, no, that's not good. Look, I might be rewarded. I might make more money, but it goes against my conscience. So reject it. Learn to do that, and you will be on the upward ascension. He took my hand, and he seemed as though burning with more than the fire of fever, and led me to a seat beside himself. I hesitated, then resolved to sit down and see this adventure out, but prayed in my heart to be kept safe from temptation. I noticed he did not offer me wine or food. His instinct and knowledge told him I should only despise them. But he caused the most lovely strain of music to sound in my ears that had been so long deprived of the solace of that heavenly art, which ever appealed most strongly to my senses. A wild, weird sensuous strain, such as a art which ever appeared strongly to my sense. Oh, okay. Sorry. Such as a siren might have sung when she sought to lure her victims, swelled, died away, and rose again. No music of the earth could have been at once so beautiful and so horrible, could at the same time intoxicate and inflame the brain and heart, yet fill my soul with so intense feeling of fear and repugnance. And then before us rose a great black mirror, which I saw reflected the earth and its life, and myself swaying the minds and the thoughts of thousands of the fevered fascinations of such music, which I could make mine, and through its spell waken the lowest yet the most refined of passions, till those who heard shall lose themselves and their souls under its potent witchery. Then he showed me armies and nations dominated to ambitious ends by himself and his influence, so that he should reign again as a despot through the organism of an earthly tyrant. Here, too, he said, I should share his power. So this is a pretty ambitious person down in the depths of the dark abyss. So these people aren't stupid. They're wrong. They're immature. They're retrograded, but they're not stupid. And he was able to create this this mirror that could show his creations. Okay, he showed me picture after picture illustrating how men could be used by spirits who possess sufficient willpower and knowledge as mere tools through which to satisfy their lust for power and sensual enjoyments of every sort. Much of this I'd known before, but had never fully realized the vast extent of the mission possible to such a being as the one before me, were it not for the checks imposed by him, by those higher powers whose wills are as strong as his. Actually, they're much stronger. Franchezzo doesn't know that, but they're much stronger. These wills have been through fire. These people who are angels, they've been where this Lord has been now. They've gone through fire. They've gone through evil. They've done everything wrong. This is why they love us so much and why they forgive us so much, even though we still have to learn, is because they've done it too. Jesus has gone through the same thing. I know this is going to be weird, strange to some people. Jesus wasn't just created out of God out of nothing to be this perfect spirit. No, he went through billions of years or lives, and he became what he became because of all his experiences. And someday we may be on the same level, maybe not, but and Jesus will continue to rise too. There are more levels above Christ. Them he only knows as an unseen force opposed to him, which baffles his efforts at every turn. So the spirit world, look how the spirit world works. They let this evil guy give bad ideas to people, right? And this is part of the trials and tribulations people have on earth. And so sometimes the high spirits kind of intercede and go, that's not a very good idea. You need to learn to resist that idea. So the spirit world uses everything. How does the spirit world fight evil? They use evil to fight evil. That's how it works. They don't go in there and they gun down this guy, right? No, they use him to train other people to resist him. And at some point, this guy will learn that he wants to resist what he's doing and become part of the light. And that means your goodness is set in you so much more because you want to be good, not because you're good because you're afraid you're going to be punished. It's entirely different. Then he only knows his unseen force opposed to him, which baffles his efforts at every turn, unless he can find in man a medium of so congenial nature that they can truly work together as one. That happens. Then indeed do sorrow and devastation follow in their train, and then do we see such monsters of triumph, wickedness as have disgraced the annals of all times. Now, thank heaven, these are growing fewer and farther between, as the human race and the spirit spheres have become purified through the teaching of the angels or the celestial spheres. So what is happening is, when we are a primitive planet, we are now a planet of atonement, where we have to live and pay for our past wrong. We are becoming a planet of regeneration. But you have to think of when you see somebody, and you think of a really nice person, visualize that trajectory where that person 2,000 years ago was just a horrible person, killed people, poisoned people, whatever. You can look at this as me because I've done this. And yet, through life after life, this person has gotten better and better. Not perfect. So again, with me, I've been told I've tortured people, I've cut people's feet off, I have stolen money, and yet I've done nothing of that this life. I've not done all great things. I've done things I regret, of course. But I've gotten better as my trajectory went on from life after life. This is how this works. Last of all, there appeared before us a woman's form of such surpassing loveliness, such seductive charm, that for one instant I rose to look more closely at her as if she could be real. And at that moment there came between me and the black magic mirror the mist-like form of an angel with the face of my beloved. And beside her, this woman seemed so coarse and material and revolting to me that the momentary illusion of the senses was gone, and I knew her for what she was, with all her kind are in truth, sirens that betray and ruin and drag men's souls to hell, while they themselves are all but soulless. This revulsion of feeling in myself caused the waves of magnetic ether on which the music and these images were born to us to waver and break and vanish, leaving me alone with my tempter once more, with his voice sounding in my ears, pointing out to me how all these delights might still be enjoyed by me if I would but join him and be his pupil. But his words fell upon deaf ears. His promises alerted me not. In my heart was only a horror of all these things, only a wild longing to free myself from his presence. I rose and turned from him and sought to go forth, but found I could not move one step. An invisible chain held me fast. With a derisive laugh of rage and triumph, he called out to me ironically, "Go, since thou wilt have none of my favors or my promises. Go forth now and see what awaits you. I could not move one step and began to feel a strange alarm creeping over me and a strange numbness of limbs and brains. Now, this is a dominant spirit, and Franchezzo is not ascend enough to just wipe that out. A higher spirit wouldn't even be touched by this guy. Could just say, "No, sorry, not happening. I hope you get better someday. God bless you." No, but Franchezzo still is, and of course, the spirit world is letting Franchezzo do this so he understands what's going on. A mist seemed to gather around me and enfold me in its chill embrace, while phantom forms of awful shape and giant size drew near, and yet more near. Oh horror! They were my own past misdeeds, my own evil thoughts and desires, which had been prompted by this very man beside me, which nestling in my heart had formed these links between us that held me to him now. So again, spirits can do this. They can use their own past. They can read into our lives, everything we did. There is no privacy. Your thoughts, your actions, everything you've done wrong, not only in this life, but in past lives, are known to spirits. A wild, fierce, cruel laugh broke him from my discomfort. He pointed to these weird shapes and bid me see what I was who thought myself too good for his company. See, very, very logical approach. Darker and darker grew the hall, and wave on wave the grim phantoms crowded around us, growing each more black and fearful as they gathered, hemming me in on every side. While below our feet opened a great vault or pit, in which I saw or seemed to see a seething mass of struggling human forms. My fearful ancestors shook in wild paroxysms of rage and fiendish laughter, and pointing to the gathering phantoms, bid them hurl me into the black pit. But suddenly above me in the darkness gleamed a star, and from it fell a ray of light like a rope, which I grasped with both my hands. And as the folds of light diffused themselves around me, I was drawn up and out of the dark place, away from that fearful palace. When I recovered from my astonishment and relief at my release, I found myself in the open country with a faithful friend, and no less a spirit than my Eastern guide himself making passes over me, for I was much shaken and exhausted with the struggle. My guide in the most kind and tender manner addressed me, and told me he had permitted this trial in order that my knowledge of the true nature of the man I had just left should be my best protection in the future against his wiles and schemes for my enslavement. So again, think how smart the spirit world is. They're letting you learn. Okay, we're going to let you learn. This is a tough lesson. It's tough love. You know, when people say, "Oh, yeah, I've talked to spirits," and they told me how wonderful I was and what a great person I am, and I thought to myself, I wonder what level of spirit you talk to, because you have to be, you know, if you talk to spirits, you have to be very careful. And I'm telling you right now, if spirits, all they do is praise you and tell you what a wonderful person you are, they're not a high spirit. A higher spirit will be like that teacher you probably didn't like in school, but in later life you thought, you know, that person really was a good teacher. They you know, made me grow. They gave me information, and I had to step up. And that's what a good spirit will do for you. I'll carry on. "So long," said he, "as you thought of this man with pride and respect as an ancestor and one who had any ties to you, so long would his power to influence you continue. But now your own sense of horror and repugnance will act as a repelling power to keep his influence away from you. Your will is quite as strong as his, and you did you but know it, need no other protection. In the interview just passed, you allowed your senses to be beguiled and your will paralyzed by this dark being before you were aware. And thus, had I not rescued you, he might, though for a time only, have made you subject to him, and while you were so, have done you serious injury. Take heed now, while you yet remain in this sphere, that you do not again lose the sovereignty over yourself, which is your own, and which no man can usurp unless your wavering will allows him to do so. I leave you again, my son, to follow your pilgrimage, which will soon, however, draw to its close. And I bid you be of good cheer, since your reward shall come from her whom you love, and who loves you and who sends ever the most tender thoughts to you. He was gone as mysteriously as he had come, and faithful friend and I set out once more to see what experiences we would meet with farther on. I was speculating what our next adventure would be when a couple of spirits hurried up to us with a great importance of manner and asked if we were not members of the Brotherhood of Hope, since if so, they had a message for one of us from a dearly loved friend on earth and were sent by one of the guides to deliver it. At first I was much pleased. I thought at once of my darling that they were sent from her, since they had not the appearance of the most dark spirits around them. Their robes shone with a peculiar blue-gray light, which was almost like a mist clothing them, and I had some trouble to make out their faces. When I did so, I could not help starting and feeling a distress crept over me, for the flickering veil of gray-blue gauze that intersposed between us became at times so thin that I could see a couple of the most repulsive dark spirits under it. Faithful friend quietly pressed my arm as a warning, and so I addressed them with caution and asked what their message was. In the name of the prophet, began one, we were to tell you that your loved one is very, very ill, and prays that you return to earth to see her without delay, lest her spirit shall have passed ere you arrive, to realms where you cannot follow her. We're here to show you the way to reach her quickly. The words gave me at first a great sense of fear. How long, I asked eagerly, is it since you left her? Not 2 days, it would reply, and we are to bring you at once. Your Eastern guide is with her and has sent us especially. Then I knew they lied. The Eastern guide had but just left and said no word of my beloved being ill. But I temporized with them and said, give me the secret sign of our brotherhood, since unless you do so, I'm of course not able to go with you. The veil of gauzy mist was fading fast for them, and I could see their dark forms growing more and more distinct beneath. I did not, however, show them that I saw this, and as they did not answer at once, they were whispering to her. I continued, if you are sent by our guide, will you surely give me the countersign of our order? Surely, yes, certainly I can. Here it is. Hope is eternal. And he smiled with an air of great frankness. Good, I said, go on and finish it. Finish it? Is there more you want? And he stood puzzled. The other nudged him and whispered something whereupon. Hope is eternal, and truth is, what, amico? Inevitable, said the other. I smiled most blandly upon them both. You are so clever, friends. No doubt you can give me the symbol. Symbol? Diavolo, there was no symbol we were given. Was there not? Then I must be the one to give it to you. They both raised their arms to make a grab at me, as I saw one had a withered hand, and knew at once to whom I was indebted for this little plot. As they rushed upon me, and this is what they do in the lower zone, and they do here, and then people even do on earth and physical. They just do little plots all the time. Stupid plots, stupid ideas of revenge, all a waste of time. And as they rushed me, I stepped back and made the sign of the sacred symbol of truth in all ages and all worlds. He made the sign of the cross. At this sight, they cowered down upon the earth as though I'd struck them and rendered them unconscious. Then we were left them to ruminate at their leisure. Symbols have meaning, and everything has meaning in the spirit world. The cross, you show the cross to people in the lower zone, it will affect them. I asked faithful friends who moved away what he thought they would do now. In a short time, said he, they will recover. You've given them a shock, and for the moment stunned them. But they'll be up again after us ere long. With some fresh devilment they'll have hatched. If you had gone with them, they would have led you into the morass yonder and left you to wander about half choked, if they did you no more serious harm. You must ever remember that they have great power in their own sphere, if once you give yourself up to their guidance in any sense. So, that is the end of chapter 23. So, and thank you. Janelle Youngs, I love what you do. Thank you for sharing it. Oh, my pleasure. I have so much fun doing this. So, if you would like to learn more, let me bring this up. I think that Spiritism tells us so much, and it's just so interesting. A good way is really to go read my book, The Spirit Realm, and it talks about the spirit realm, the physical realm, which is a subset of the physical realm, and within them there's different universes and different dimensions. what you are as a spirit, how you started as a spirit. It's very interesting. You are immortal. You are unique. You are just this personality. That's what they call us. Other spirits call it. They call us personalities, that we've been created by experience after experience. And when we had no free will, when we were like small little bacteria or whatever, and then when we have free will, it's all more and more experiences. So, and then how you can ascend. So anyway, I just want to tell everyone that that what I'm reading is one spirit's idea of what he went through, and everything can see it differently, but it ties into spiritism. It shows you that, I know in this modern culture they go, oh, there's no such thing as hell, and they're right. There's no such thing as eternal punishment, but there are places where people go where they are with people like them. It's called the law of affinity, and a lot of people talk about the law of affinity, but they talk about it always as a positive thing, and I guess it still is a positive, but this shows you that it's kind of, you're there with people. It's kind of the opposite of the golden rule. People are doing to you what you have done to others. You don't want to be in that part. Okay, so the other one I just want to say is, again, please, if you would like, is to download my free PDF book on my site, nwspiritism.com. That gives you a good introduction to Spiritism. And from then I would read the Spirits book, but of course, it depends on what you want, right? Everyone learns differently, but you can download that for free. Okay, I want to say God bless to all of you. And okay, I just had a comment I want to show here is thank you again for reminding us of our uniqueness. And yes, we are. When they say, "Oh, you're unique," and we say that in our physical representation, but it's actually so much more than that. Our thoughts, everything is built up over millions of years and who knows how many lives. And of course, remember, but in every physical life, you're given two things: your conscience and your instinct. So try to start following your conscience. Okay, I want to say, everyone, God bless. God bless.